Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Ask Sibs. As I keep saying, I'm trying to go live around lunchtime, and some days just run away with busyness, busy meetings, busy emails, busy projects, but all good busy. Still loving life at Purple Goat and all the amazing things we're up to. But I thought I'd change the direction a little bit today. Obviously, a lot of last week's daily Ask Sib episodes were around a bit sort of financial target I set myself and set us as a company, around a lot of influencer, social media marketing, so quite work oriented. And I've come back to say, just as a general update, I'm feeling quite rejuvenated after the weekend, for one reason or another, no particular reason, but just really felt tired this Monday. I think it's, mid-January. We're still in that dark time of the year. Obviously, we all know that the things going on with COVID, and I'm still ever optimistic that give it a month and the days will be longer and the weather will be a bit warmer. And obviously, COVID-wise, the vaccines will be more rolled out, and normality will return one way or another, hopefully. But yeah, just feeling quite tired. And so I was sort of thinking what to go live and talk about today. And I thought, let's go a bit more fun, non-work related. I say fun. I find a lot of business entrepreneurship and marketing very fun as well. But I thought I'd speak about one of my passions, which is travel, but also one of the particular trips I did. It must be about 4 or 5 years ago now, where I went on a blogger's trip to Helsinki in Finland in January. And so, as it's still a bit cold outside, it partly inspired the sharing of this story today. And as it says at the bottom, how did you husky dog sled in minus 32 degrees Finland winter? I'm still not yet sure why I did it in the first place. I know how I did it practically, which I'll share with you in a minute, but I don't know how I survived it. It was absolutely freezing. I've never felt that sort of cold. And I remember that evening having to get in bed and wrap up under the quilt in the hotel room quite early. I'm normally quite a night owl, but I really was in bed quite early that night. It really did, that cold did get into my bones. But despite that slight unpleasant consequence of the cold, it was one of those really phenomenal experiences. So for those of you that don't know, I'm always in my wheelchair for all of the waking hours. So I get hoisted out of my wheelchair. For those that don't know, hoist, it's imagine like a smaller crane, and imagine like a hammock, which in the disability moving and handling part of the world, we call it a sling. But imagine this sort of hammock, and it goes underneath the person, underneath me, and then it hooks on to the hoist, which is like a crane. And then rather than people having to physically lift, which is obviously not great for them or for as comfortable for me, the hoist, the machinery, the technology does all the heavy lifting. But whenever I'm out and about, it's very hard to take a hoist anywhere with you. Like for me on a personal level with me, but for everyone in my similar boat, it's difficult for anyone to take a hoist with them. For starters, the one I've got at home, it's a tracking hoist, so it actually attaches to the ceiling. So you definitely can't take that anywhere out remotely. There are portable remote hoists, and so there are ways of taking them, but yeah, not very practical. They're quite heavy and cumbersome, and you wouldn't just sort of pop it on a day trip and start hoisting, in particular in this example, to go husky dog sledding. So I just wanted to speak to the way that I am in my chair pretty much all the time. It's very difficult to get in and out of the wheelchair. And so things like, husky dog sledding and some of the other travel adventure activities I'll share with you on future episodes of our Sibs, a bit trickier. So the way that this played out was we're on this blogging trip. I went with all sorts of other bloggers. It wasn't a disability blogging thing. It was broad, inclusion, all range of different types of bloggers. And I was one of a couple of disabled bloggers on the trip. And we had really cool dinners and parties, and we got to explore Helsinki, and we went to a travel fair. Obviously, I've been very involved in accessible travel, so there was a big part of that. It was part of the trip. But yeah, this particular day we got picked up. I think it was like 8:30 on the bus, but it was still dark. So as dark as it is in the UK in winter, relative to Finland, it's actually quite light. They get about 3 hours or something of actual sort of, not 3 hours, but I'm trying to think which way around it was now. In the summer, you get kind of 3 hours of nighttime. That's what I was thinking. And in the winter, it's certainly not light until mid sort of 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and that's in Helsinki, which is South Finland. So when you go right up to the north of Finland and right up more to the North Pole, then it is darker even more of the day. Got my dark and light sorted here now. But point being, it was early-ish start, but it was very dark, lots of snow. We went on an adapted bus, so the bus had a lift to get me onto it in my wheelchair. We drove for about 45 minutes, I think it was, out of Helsinki. And then, just got to this really magical place where they had the husky dogs all ready, lined up with the sled. Various people took part. And for myself and a couple of people with a disability, the team and the staff were willing and able to actually lift us. So as I say, there was no hoist, and I do find that quite a bit stressful when I'm lifted rather than hoisted, because you're trusting another person to do it, and obviously even more so when you've never met that person, like in this instant. And that's a very similar experience to getting lifted on and off aeroplanes. Part of the stress is the unknown, that the person or the people doing it, you've not really met them until that exact moment when they do the lifting. So anyway, I went on with Kasia. It wasn't ever so supportive in terms of my lack of upper and lower body strength. So I was sort of sat in front of Kasia, and she was able just to kind of support me. And I think I remember having my head kind of resting on her shoulder, not having the headrest and the backrest of my wheelchair. And next thing we were racing across this snowy, icy plain, and the snow was falling, and the dogs went pretty fast. It was quite a emotion-full experience. But as you can imagine, just very magical to be towed on a sled by these really amazing dogs. Sort of nature had them doing this many, many, many years ago for more sort of practical reasons, I would imagine, around moving people and things, before we had all the cars and planes that we have today. But also, even now, just really phenomenal experience that they were able to do such a cool thing, and that we were able to get involved and enjoy doing. I'll try to dig out the blog post I did about the trip. I'm pretty sure I definitely did a blog post about Finland that will have mentioned the husky dog. I think there was a photo that I had on there as well, so you can have a little look once I dig out that link and share it on my socials. But I just sort of sat here in January feeling a bit tired and a bit colder. I thought that was actually a bit of a different angle to share such a story with you that would always live in my memory. Another thing, actually, just while I'm mentioning it, was when I went out for dinner, one of the main meats on the menus was reindeer, and I remember being horrified about anyone could eat reindeer when it's obviously tied with Christmas and Rudolph, and it's not a meat that we particularly eat in the UK. But I did one evening try it, and I have to say it actually was quite similar sort of taste to beef or some sort of red meat in that area. And I got over the guilt in the end and did end up having some reindeer on the menu. So don't judge me, but actually I did end up eating the reindeer. So that was another part of our magical trip to Helsinki, Finland a few years ago. As always, if you've got questions about this particular that you'd like me to answer in more detail, please feel free to comment. And we've had Trish, who's commented on the live, saying great to see you again. Great to see you too, Trish. And if you're watching this later but still have questions, still comment, and I'll keep an eye on it, and I'll answer it in written typing form. And also, if you've got other questions that you'd like to ask me about some of my travels with, getting around with my wheelchair, that sort of stuff, I'd love to share more stories. There's been a good amount of trips in recent years. I've even written a book called Everything is Possible, which is all like different chapters on different parts of the world that I visited. And one of the chapters is all about the adventure activities I've done in different countries. So I would definitely be sharing some of them either way round, but I definitely would love to answer particular angles you're interested in. And of course, as I've said a few times, around the entrepreneurship and business and all of those topics, very, very keen to get involved with those with you as well. All right, well, so the light's about to go down. I better go put a light on before I'm presenting to you in the dark. I hope you're having a good Monday, and I hope you have a really great, productive week. And I will be back hopefully more at lunchtime-ish tomorrow for another episode of Our Sibs. And in the meantime, have a good one. Bye-bye.